Like I said, this is just going to be an open Q&A session. Anything that we went over thus far this pagan year of so-called 2021, we can discuss it. Anything that you've read, you've been studying, anything you've heard from a different assembly, we can see if we can get to the root of it. I just want to remind everybody that we are streaming live on Facebook, and this will be published sometime next week. So we want to be righteous brothers and sisters. We don't want to call out any names of any brothers or sisters. We don't want to call out the names of any assemblies. But I want to open up the discussion with the virgin birth topic revisit. And those who may see this at a later date, this is like a sneak preview to the work we're going to try to offer the Most High called Just Give Me Book TV. Just Give Me Book TV is going to be an avenue, a platform to try to teach the family how to rightly divide the word of the Most High, just using text, Hebrew writings as well as secondary scholastic writings. But Just Give Me Book TV, the Most High dropped in my spirit a couple years ago as I began to go public and get bold with my declaration that we're the Israelites and that the commandments are alive. I would get so many Christians, preachers, laymen. They would just I guess they were trying to save me or witness to me. And these brothers, some of them are seminary trained. That's why I came up with the term Dr. Seminary. Now my family, because my brother is so what you call that word, narcissistic, he believes every time that he see me post about Dr. Seminary that I'm talking about him, like he's the only one that I know that has a doctorate or a PhD in theology. And that's a narcissist for you. But I've talked to several different men who either are seminary trained or they carry the distinction of being a doctor of theology. So when I say Dr. Seminary, it's a blanket over everyone who's been seminary trained. And as I would try to talk to these brothers, and some are elders of mine. I used to go to their church as a child, and I would have conversations with these brothers in private. It wasn't no open discussion debate. We wasn't trying to, a workman does the work. We don't need no microphone. We don't need no megaphone. We don't need no camera. If you're about the Most High's work, do the work. So I would be having conversations with these brothers, some at my job, some on the phone. And one thing you'll hear, and you'll know they're seminary trained, because they all say the same catchphrases. So if you talk to one seminary trained person, it's like talking to them all. And it's sort of like the same thing for us Israelites, because we're waking up by the power of Yah, and we're getting a true understanding of Scripture, and now we all, like we're supposed to be, we are all on one accord. We are caught. But the seminary people do the same thing. So as I'm just having these conversations with these people, it's just like, just give me book. I don't want your commentary. I don't want what the Jesuits taught you and all these curriculums they designed. Just give me book. So y'all willing, this is just a preview of how we're going to not be know-it-alls. We're just going to try to use texts, ancient Israelite texts and secondary texts to prove all positions throughout the Bible. So this is just a preview of Just Give Me Book TV. And this is our logo. I did publish our what you call that, Queen? Our intro. Our intro is published. It's on Facebook. Let me see if I can pull it up for the family online, because I don't think I'm on Facebook friends with everybody. Let me pull it up for y'all here so y'all can take a look at this. And babe, I got it for some reason down here.
Gone right in?
Yeah, right. I don't know what's going on. And I want to thank all the brothers, Demaria, Nariah, Yashaya, Nahumya, Des, all the brothers, my adopted niece and nephew for my job, everyone who volunteered their time and services to get this up. I thank you all. All right, so let me get this on the screen for y'all. So this is the intro me and Akyan put together.
What about the rap?
Is the Bible even true?
Have to Israelites.
Come to open up the pages, taking up the notes. And just give me what the come to open up the pages, taking up the notes. Give me what the come to open up the pages, taking up the notes. And just give me what. Come to open up the pages, taking up the notes. And just give me what the come to open up the pages, taking up the notes. And just give me what.
Hallelujah. So that's gonna be our intro, and that's
it sounded like it was like chopping up, but I don't know if it was just my computer or what.
It was mine as well. It was chopping.
Let me see if I can share, do a new share. I'll bring it back. So I'm gonna bring it back so y'all can hear it again. See if this is better.
What about the rap?
Is the Bible even true?
What happened to the Israelites?
To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
Then he said unto them, O fools, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Hamashiach to have suffered these things, and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures things concerning himself.
All the peoples of the earth are going to know that you're called by me, and they're going to be afraid of you. If we kept his commandment, what was that name? Jewish fool wouldn't happen. You see how the cop just put mirror on his neck? The cop wasn't even scared, the mirror on his man's neck. And Jewish fool is a royal
Time to open up the pages, take another look, and just give me book. It's time to open up the pages, take another look, and just give me book. It's time to open up the pages, take another look, and just give me book. It's time to open up the pages, take another look, and just give me book. It's time to open up the pages, take another look, and just give me book.
How was that, fam? Was that a little better?
Loud and clear.
Con.
All
God.
praises. All praises. So this is just a labor of love that we're doing. We don't have a hard date for the premiere because we still got to get some software and some hardware lined up and have some trial runs before we go live with this. So I don't have a hard date, but that's something we're working on to help the community. And today is just a sneak peek of how we're going to do it. The Torah Group, y'all know we don't know everything. We make corrections as we learn things, but we're trying to help the community, help them, not tell them what to think, but give them the information and let them make their own decisions. So this is just a preview. We're going to be a preview of Just Give Me Book TV. And I want to start with the virgin birth. And y'all willing, we'll do a whole session, a complete session on the virgin birth. We've been touching on it in bits and pieces here and there because it keeps coming up. But we have yet to do a full breakdown from start to finish on the virgin birth. So y'all willing, we'll do a whole complete breakdown from start to finish. And I just want to, full disclaimer, full disclosure, I have changed my positions before on the virgin birth. So I don't pretend that these topics are easy. I don't pretend that these topics are just black and white issues. And like I said, when we were at the conference, none of us teachers or laymen should be embarrassed if we got something wrong. We are the descendants of the slaves, the Israelite slaves. And we got right inside the Bible, we got proof that our ancestors got things wrong and they had a temple. They had their native tongue. They had their native clothing and they still got things wrong. So us waking up over here in this part of Babylon, there's no embarrassment. Only time you get embarrassed if you're wrong, if you're puffed up with pride and you done exalted yourself to be some great moray, some great sage. I'm elder this, I'm marad this. That's when you get embarrassed and don't want to correct yourself. I've been doing this for 30 years. All this stuff doesn't matter to the Most High. So we're not embarrassed to go back and correct anything that we presented. When you all send me different classes to review, I don't watch them with my pen out and let me prove him wrong. No, I watch it as a student. Let me learn because I don't know everything. I haven't read everything. I could have missed something. So I came across a class this week about the virgin birth. And just be mindful, we are live. This is going to be public. This is not to attack. I don't debate. If anyone sees this, Abijah of the Torah Group, I don't debate. If you want to help edify the body, please reach out by all means. But all this debating, going back and forth with Christians and Israelites, I don't get involved with that. But I had an opportunity to watch this discussion on the virgin birth this past week. And I did share it with the brothers to get their thoughts because, again, we need all hands on deck. We need all eyes. Just because I may be a grade or two ahead of you all, don't mean that I know it all. Don't mean that you don't have a revelation from the Most High. So we need all hands on deck to make sure we're not being indoctrinated again. Because the days of letting someone talk to us for 2 and 3 hours without showing us where they're getting it from and how they're tying it together, those days are over. That's how we were indoctrinated inside the Christian church. So let's take a look at this virgin birth. And of course, we've been using this now for, I think, actually over a year. It's funny, I was checking the notes we brought this out almost a year ago. I think it's on YouTube. It was September like 21st of last year when the Most High dropped this plumb line inside my spirit. And again, I thank the Most High because the plumb line came through two brothers, me and another brother, having a sincere conversation. We were having a conversation. We were not arguing. We were not being combative, but we were sincerely talking. And the brother was like, "Well, how do we know when you or whoever is talking that is not false doctrine?" And as we were talking in the middle of the conversation, I just repeated, "Well, we are taught to put line upon line, precept upon precept." But that night when I went to bed, the Most High dropped in my spirit, and I woke up that morning, and it was like, wow, it's right in my word. I gave you a measurement or a barometer, and the barometer I call it the Most High's plumb line or Yah's plumb line, and it's right in the scriptures. We're commanded to produce witnesses. Deuteronomy 19:15. Before you have a man whipped or anything, even given a fine, before you pass any judgment on a man, the Sanhedrin has to hear 2 or 3 witnesses, and those witnesses have to be interrogated. And then when we go to the second part, Acts 21:21, does Moses agree? Because when they were stoning Stephen, when they was trying to trump up charges on the Messiah, everything they said against Stephen and against the Messiah was their teaching against Moses. So if your position that you're teaching, or if the position you're listening to doesn't agree with Moses, that's cause for pause. And then the third step, search the scriptures. Acts 17:11. We are commanded to search the scriptures because the Messiah himself says, search the scriptures because for in them you think you have eternal life, but they testify of me. So according to the Messiah himself, when we have an issue, when we don't understand something, we are commanded to search the scriptures. Now, Christianity has come on the scene, and they have told people that those New Testament letters are scriptures. We brought it out at the Bible in Black 2 conference, Uprooting Christianity. The New Testament is not scripture. The New Testament is not on par with the Old Testament. Those 2 men who told you that were pagan church fathers by the name of Tertullian and Irenaeus. They the ones who said any epistle, any letter that's mentioning something the Messiah did is canon. These 2 pagans told you that. But when the Messiah himself told us to search the scriptures, it was only the Tanakh. It was only what they call the Old Testament. So that's the third part of the plumb line. And then the fourth step, 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 20-21. Uncle Peter says, no scripture is of any private interpretation. There's no way all of us should be reading the same verse and saying, oh yeah, the law is nailed to the cross. Well, no, we still got to keep Easter, and you pay tithes, but you don't got to do tabernacles. There's no way all of us should be reading these verses, coming up with all these different doctrines. If you're coming up with different doctrines, somebody's off. And there's no sense of being sensitive. Somebody is off, and we have to do further inspection. So everything that we present, we're going to use Yah's plumb line as our barometer, as our measurement if we're off or not. And this plumb line is objective because Yah himself held himself to his own plumb line. Yah himself uses the plumb line. So let's get our first witness. Maya, if you're good to read, just go ahead and read. If not, any of those brothers can help you out. But let's show the people that the Most High himself uses a plumb line. He presents witnesses. Let's go to Devarim chapter 30. Devarim 30:19 is Deuteronomy 30:19. Let's go to Deuteronomy 30 and verse 19. Mom, when you have it.
Come on.
Deuteronomy or Devarim. Devarim means, and these are the words. And these are the words, Devarim. chapter 30, verse 19. You good out?
Yeah.
Deuteronomy 30 and 19. Read.
I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live.
So the Most High is telling Moses, or this may be Uncle Masha, but the point is, he says, I call heaven and earth. Heaven and earth are being called in to be witnesses against the children of Israel. Calling two witnesses to support what you're saying is part of Yasher Allah's customs. Let's get the next witness. Let's go to Yasher 43. Yasher is the same as Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah 43 and verse 10. Whether you are an Israelite, whether you be a Christian, if you're reading the words, if you're reading the text of our ancestors, and you formulate a position, you should be able to produce witnesses to support what you're saying. Isaiah or Yasher 43, verse 10. Come on.
Shema.
Read.
You are my witnesses, saith Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there was no Elohim formed, neither shall there be after me. I even I. Oh, I guess that was it. That was it, right?
So again, the Most High is telling us, the children of Israel, ye are my witnesses. And if he's talking to the children of Israel, well, he's talking to 12 tribes. So he's talking to many witnesses. Producing witnesses is part of our customs, it's part of our Torah law. Let's get a third witness. Let's go to the end of the book. Let's go to Revelation chapter 11 and verse 3. Revelations 11 and verse 3. Just to show that we're in line with our ancestors, we're in line with the Most High with this plumb line.
Revelation chapter 11, verse 3. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth.
Here we go again, and y'all know Revelations, this is the revelation of Messiah. This is the revelation of Messiah. This is our last book that we know about. And even all the way at the end, the Most High is saying, I'm going to give you two witnesses. So this plumb line is in line with the Father and it's in line with the Son. So any position that you present, you should have witnesses to support what you're saying. Because what you're finding out, family, a lot of these teachers, they're throwing a lot of stuff on the wall. They're throwing a lot of stuff on the wall, and you could be overwhelmed and you could be impressed by the delivery. We are children of Israel, and we've always been impressed by what we can see. We love shiny things. How many, when those spinners came out, your whole neighborhood was flooded with spinners? The brother, huh?
Grills.
And the grills. We're children of Israel, and for some reason, we love the shiny things. And a brother can come in a nice package, great diction, great outfits, and wow, we can get enamored. Wow, he really brought that out. That was really deep. But we have to, that's all Christian. We picked that up from Christendom. And that's not an attack. Family, we're going to be Christians till Messiah come back. There's no way around it. There's no sense of getting offended. We all have Christianity in us, and being enamored with someone's delivery, their speech. Oh man, he's getting riled up. Yes, we get riled up. It's passionate. But don't let that person's passion deter you from vetting what he's saying. Whether it be me or anybody, you keep your faculties within you and says, yeah, I really enjoyed that, but let me go back in my own studies and let me verify. Let me run down the sources he offered. Because you, at the end of the day, you're responsible. You can't blame anyone for leading you down a rabbit hole if you didn't vet what he was saying. So if someone leads you astray to reject Messiah, to reject baptism, you can't blame it on that person because you have the same opportunity as the next man. Make sure that you have witnesses to support what that person is saying. Too many people are getting caught up with the shiny things. That's why they rejected John the Baptist when he was coming out of the wilderness. John didn't come with no shiny, nice flax gown and no linen. He had on camel's hair, looking all wild, but he had the truth. He had the warnings. Repent, be baptized. So we have to leave Christianity completely. We can't have one toe in. No, everything we picked up from them, we have to drop it. Another thing we picked up from Christianity, and you'll hear teachers do it, they will, and I gotta use their terms so you understand what I'm saying. But Christianity picked it up from the Greeks, and they're taught to exegete things. And exegete is just a Greek word. We're not Greeks, we're not Latins, we're not Romans. It's an abomination for us to apply any Greek terms to our holy covenant, to our holy scriptures. But that means, exegete means to draw something out. So let me give you an example of how someone may draw something out. So they read the scripture, Messiah wept, or Jesus wept, right? Shortest verse in the Bible, right? Jesus wept. And then he's on a roll, he's feeling himself, he's in his zone, and then they say, well, you know why Jesus wept? Because he wept because he knew that they had the power to resurrect Lazarus themselves, if they only knew who they were. Now, that may sound good, it may be true, but you just drew that out the text. The text said nowhere that Messiah was weeping because he knew that they had the power to resurrect Lazarus. That's what you're getting from a lot of teachers. And this is not a knock on teachers. We're all guilty of it. Sometimes when I hear the playback, when I'm editing, I'm like, wow, either I presented something and I should have took the time to give you the source, or it's like, oh, I recalled that from memory and I didn't get it right. So this is not a knock on a teacher. If you're sensitive, this ain't the walk for you. If you're a sensitive leader, this is not the walk for you. But I'm for the people to let you know you have to hold everybody's feet to the fire. And just because they sounded something good, is it inside the text? Is it inside the text? So with that, we're going to take a look at the virgin birth and just go over a couple of the positions that I heard offered this week. And I said, wow, I never heard some of these positions. So the first thing we're going to go over, there's a ideology, there's a teaching, there's a doctrine that David performed the office of the priesthood. And David actually had a priesthood. And they say David had a priesthood, and this doctrine that David had a priesthood is from Christendom, it's Christianity. Nowhere in the text can you present two witnesses to corroborate that David had a priesthood. And just to give you one witness, Quinn, can you hit those lights because it's clear. Just to give you one witness, because I don't want this to be drawn out, and I want to leave room for you guys to open up some topics that you guys may have been studying, some questions. I'm just going to give you one witness to show you that this whole idea that David had a priesthood and there's a Davidic priesthood, it comes from Christianity. And I'm just going to give you one witness. So for the sake of time, I won't present a lot of witnesses about this Davidic priesthood. Most of you are Bereans or you're growing into being Bereans, and all you got to do is Google the priesthood of David, and you'll find out that this whole doctrine that David has a priesthood, it comes from seminary. It comes from the Jesuits. So this is right off Bible Hub, BibleHub.com, and Shamoria, I'll read this to give you a break. This is right off BibleHub.com, And this is the priesthoods of David and the Messiah. And it's written by a seminary teacher or student or Tuck, right? And I'm just gonna read some of this. It says, can y'all see it pretty well on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. It says, it cannot be safely asserted that this song belongs exclusively to the Messiah. So there's a Psalms 110, and there's a couple different songs that David wrote, and some of those songs are actually messianic. A lot of those songs is the Messiah speaking through David, right? So it says, it cannot be safely asserted that this Psalms 110, belongs exclusively to Messiah. Every messianic reference in the Old Testament probably has a first and local application. Now, you can't gloss over words like probably. Y'all see that? Probably has a first and local application. This song refers then to David and through him to Messiah. If this be so, we can't gloss over these terms, family. This is how the Jesuits present their cases. And the Jesuits, like many Christians, when you start dealing with them, they always leave themselves an escape clause. Well, I'm not saying this is my position, but many people believe, don't give me that. What are you saying? Be a man and give me a declaration. Don't give me if it be so, or some people have a position. It's me and you talking a mano. Tell me what you're saying. Tell me what you're saying. It's not a game. So it says, if this be so, the application of the Melchizedek type of priest to David may help us in tracing the application of the same type to Messiah. This point dwells on by the writer of the epistle to the Hebrews. All right, so let's drop down. It says, David's priesthood was of the Melchizedek kind. Priesthood is but ministry. Only it is ministry in sacred and divine things. The essential idea of a priest is one who represents God on earth in some particular sphere. Now, if these Christians truly understood the Hebraic context of these records, they will understand that David doesn't have a priesthood. Actually, our whole nation, we're called a nation of priests. So David doesn't have a priesthood, but our whole nation is a nation of priests. That's why you have to kick it, family. You have to keep it in context. This Jesuit seminary trained writer continues, so a king who is loyal to Yahweh and represents him in the political and national sphere is properly a priest. Where in our scrolls can this be confirmed? Nowhere in our text does it say anybody representing the Most High in politics or a national sphere is properly a priest. This is what the Jesuits train people in their cemetery schools. They give you a bunch of theory based on a curriculum by devils. Yes, David was a national king of ours. Yes, he represented the Most High, but our whole nation is supposed to represent the Most High. That's why we're called Yasharallah. We're going to get to that later. So for the sake of time, we'll just drop down. Evidently, Melchizedek was the divine representative for his day and his country, just as Abraham was for his tribe, and so is he called a king priest. It is noticed that David and perhaps all the kings of Israel assumed certain priestly functions. David himself as the bringing up of the ark, and Solomon as at the consecration of the temple has some shadow of the priestly office. Again, because Christianity is the doctrine of foreigners on the outside looking in, they don't understand our culture. Every man is a priest of his own home. It's you who pray over your children. If you're fasting and praying and living this covenant as it was told to us, You shouldn't have to take your wife down to the temple so the elders could pray over her. You're supposed to wash, clean yourself, and wash, clean yourselves. You anoint her in your home, and you pray to the Father. So us being priests, it's our lineage, it's our heritage. But these pagans don't understand what's going on inside our scrolls. So now they think that David has a priesthood and David is some type of priest. We're going to see if our text verifies that David is a priest, right? So I'll finish this up. Messiah's priesthood was of Melchizedek's kind. It was united with kingship as it was in the case of Melchizedek. And we only regard Messiah aright when we fully recognize his authority to atone and his authority to rule, his relationship to the whole sphere of our worship, and his relation to our entire commonplace life and relations. So y'all know Christianity, all you gotta do is tie something to Jesus and his gospel. You can put Messiah, Christ, Jesus on anything, and people are gonna eat it up. That's indoctrination. We're gonna use the text and textual criticism, and we're gonna use Yah's plumb line to unravel this false doctrine. But they try to tie David into being a priest king, to tie that to Messiah being a priest king, and then that's how they package his virgin birth. Really, it's not a virgin birth. I'm just giving you this background to show you how they tie everything in to this. He didn't really come of a virgin because he's a priest king. So this is just one witness, but there's many doctor seminaries out there who wrote articles and papers that David had a priesthood, and we're going to show you with our scrolls through a Hebraic lens, David didn't have a priesthood. David did not have a priesthood. So there's no witnesses to corroborate David having a priesthood. You can't find any writers in the Old Testament. You can't find any of our elders ever mentioning the priesthood of David. So that's strike one. The next point, and I apologize, I wrote it in white, I typed it in white, it's not showing up too well on my side. If David had a priesthood, family, where or who are the priests under his order? Because we should know. We should have a list. We should have a record of the priests who served in his order. You won't find it because it's not there because David wasn't a priest. Now, the second point they raised to try to support that David was a priest, let's go to 2 Samuel. Let's go to 2 Samuel 6, verse 14. 2 Samuel 6, 14. Come on. Shemaria, you good?
Shema.
Read.
And David danced before Yahweh with all his might, and David was girded with a linen ephod.
So this is the text they take you to and say, see, when David was bringing the ark into Jerusalem, he was wearing an ephod. He's wearing the priest's ephod. This is David acting as a priest because he has an ephod on. Can we go over to 1 Samuel? Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 2. And this is when we have to keep our code. We have to learn our code, family. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 2. We're just going to read verse 18. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 18. Family online, don't let us get ahead of you. If you need time, just so you know, just hold up. We don't want to leave anybody. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 18. Come on. Read.
But Samuel ministered before Yahweh, being a child, girded with a linen ephod.
Here's baby Samuel. He's ministering before the Most High, and he has a linen ephod on. So is Samuel a priest? Is Samuel a priest? Because he's wearing an ephod. How do we know that Samuel can't be a priest, family? Anybody can help us out. How do we know that Samuel can't be a priest?
Then you have to be 30, your age.
You had to be 30 or 35, depending on the text. I think the Septuagint disagrees with the Masoretic. So one text say 30 or 35. That's a great point. Then y'all couldn't hear Gina. Say it again, Gina.
He wasn't a Levite.
Samuel wasn't a Levite. Let's go back to 1 Samuel and let's get what tribe Samuel comes from. Can you read 1 Samuel 1:1? 1 Samuel 1:1.
1 Samuel 1, verse 1. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuppah, and Ephraimite, or an Ephraim, Ephraimite.
So Samuel comes from Elkanah. Samuel's mother was barren, and Elkanah, his father, had 2 wives, but Samuel's mother was barren. So Samuel is not a Levite, he's an Ephraimite. So we got Samuel, an Ephraimite, he's not a Levite, and then he's a child. He's a child. So according to the Most High, these people, when you don't understand Hebrew or Israelite culture, you make the Most High and his son sounds like schizophrenics. Because the Most High says, only Levite can approach me in the priesthood. Then he says, and even of the Levites, only certain ones can be high priests. And then you have to be the age of 20 or 25. So when you say that David was a priest because he was wearing an ephod, you don't understand the culture. You have to dig a little bit deeper. Just because someone is wearing an ephod, don't mean they are a priest, don't mean they're serving as a priest. And we're going to give you more witnesses.
They're going to read the Old Testament, so they don't study it and know it.
But some of these teachers are well studied, but they're still exegeting. They're drawing out their own conclusions to fit their doctrine. And that's what we don't do here. We don't draw out our own conclusions to win an argument or to prove our position. We let the text speak, and now we know we have to verify this text because our records have been altered. But some of these teachers, they're inserting their beliefs, what they want to say, into the text. So just because David entered Jerusalem wearing an ephod, don't mean that he's a priest. Furthermore, this is let it flow. The text say, let's go back to 2 Samuel 6 and pick it up at 14 again and run it down to how it says he danced out his clothes. 2 Samuel 6 and 14.
2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 14. And David danced before Yahweh with all his might, and David was girded with the linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of Yahweh with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. And as the ark of Yahweh came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before Yahweh, and she despised him in her heart. And they brought in the ark of Yahweh and set it in his place in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh. As soon as David had made an end of the burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of Yahweh Tazabah, and he dealt among all the people, among all the whole multitude of Israel, as well to the women and as men, to every one a cake of bread and a good piece of flesh and a flagon of wine. So all the people departed, every one to his house.
So let's drop over to verse but no, you just drop right there. Yeah, let's continue verse 20. You just drop right there.
Then David returned to bless his household, and Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovereth himself."
And what David said?
And David said unto Michal, am I saying that right?
Michal.
It's McCall.
And David said unto Michal, "It was before Yahweh which chose me before thy father and before all his house to appoint me ruler over the people of Yahweh, over Israel. Therefore will I play before Yahweh. And I will yet be more vile than thus, and will be base in my own sight, and of the maidservants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor."
So
Therefore, Michal, okay.
that's all we need to so we about to bring out two things here. So David was dancing so hard that he danced out of his ephod. So that's proof that we are people of rhythm and we can move. We don't be in outside our congregation all stiff like the Methodists. We clap our hands, we move, we bop, we how y'all young folks say we do the jig. David is so happy, huh?
They don't say that, baby.
Jig. But David is so happy praising Yah that he dances himself either out his ephod or maybe it came up and he exposed himself to the daughters of Israel. Now, one of his wives, Saul's daughter, is she's getting on him, like, "Oh yeah, you're some royal king exposing yourself to the daughters of Israel." Now, the second thing we're going to touch on, so he danced out his ephod, and then another point they try to say that David was a priest is that David is offering sacrifice before the Most High. He's offering burnt offerings, and he's offering it before the people, for the people, so he's acting as a priest. This is another tie-in. They say, see, David is a priest. This is his priesthood. So let's address the first thing. Let's go to the book of Job.
Can I say insert real quick?
Speaking to my mic, because
I just noticed, and this is not on topic of what you're talking about, but I just noticed how David actually referenced his return comment to Michal other than to his daughter, even though his daughter spoke to him. Am I looking at that right?
no, that's his wife. Michal is one of his wives, his first wife.
Oh,
That's his first. That's the wife he got from Saul. Saul gave him his daughter.
gotcha. All right, thank you.
But it was customary for a man to call his wife his daughter because you're the same tribe sometimes. So a husband may call his wife my daughter or my sister.
Okay. So Michal is the woman. Okay.
Yeah. So let's go to the book of Job, because they say, see, David is sacrificing. He's offering burnt sacrifice. He's performing the priesthood. And this is when you have to be a Berean. Let's go to the book of Job. And let's go to Job chapter 1. And let's pick it up. Let's go to Job chapter 1, verse 5. Job chapter 1, verse 5. Shema. Read.
And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to he offered burnt offerings.
Offer what?
He offered burnt offerings.
Sin sacrifices. Read on.
According to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed Elohim in their hearts. Thus Job did continually.
Job always offered sin sacrifices for his children because that's the role of a father over his house. I'm going to pray over my children. I'm going to offer something for my children because they don't know no better in case they got out of control. So David offering burnt offerings doesn't equate him to having a priesthood. Every man can offer burnt offerings for the Father. Every man can offer burnt offerings for the Father, but it was only one tribe that was awarded or that was allowed to approach the Father inside the temple, inside the holies of holies. So just because we see David offering burnt offerings, we can't exegete, we can't draw out, see, David is a priest. No, it doesn't work like that. That's not proper. That's not the proper way to put precept upon precept. All of us can offer burnt offerings. Read on, go ahead.
It's a lot, yeah. And that just, see, that goes back to what we be saying. We are a nation of kings and priests. And you know, we say that all the time. And I know I be talking to Gerald all the time about it, but this gives me more credence to what I be trying to say. We are a nation of kings and priests. So everybody does duties based on their own home. And then we'll have, you know, the ordinance of the temple worship. But then also when you read the text, a lot of like Abraham, Gideon, Jacob, when they experienced an experience with the Most High, they would build an altar right there, wherever that land was, and they would mark that land. Like one that's off the top of my head, just spitballing it or whatever. Gideon, like I believe he was the one that made the Shalom, the altar of peace. And I'll look that up and we might bring it back later, but I just wanted to say that it shows that altars and offerings, you know, each man, priest or not, or Levitical priest or not, was doing those types of things in the nation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anybody else want to add to what I was saying?
I would add too, like even in the Old Testament, I think it's like a lot of our forefathers, whenever they came to a new place, they would mark it by making an altar to the Most High. And I know Solomon did when he dedicated the temple after the Most High gave him some dreams. I think he made an altar and he offered so many sacrifices on that altar that it couldn't be counted.
Thank you for that, Montel. So not keeping, and again, it's a lot to remember. That's why I thank the Most High for Bereans and workmen, because you can't remember all this stuff. And sometimes in the heat of battle, you may forget these things. So again, this is not a dig on anyone. It's a lot to remember about our culture. And it's a lot to unravel because we're going through redacted text. But any man sacrificing to the Most High, wearing an ephod, don't make him a priest. And we got more to bring this out. And one last point about offering sacrifices. If I'm traveling outside the location of a bayat, aka synagogue, if I'm traveling outside the location of one and I sin, would I wait till I get back to the temple to sacrifice? What if I die before I get back? So like the brothers are saying, if I think I transgress against the Most High, I'm going to take some rocks untouched by a stone, and I'm going to build an altar, and I'm going to find a clean animal, and I'm going to offer my sacrifice and ask for repentance wherever I'm at. So I'm not going to wait till I get back to the temple if I'm that far away. I could die. I could be killed. So again, family, wearing an ephod and sacrificing do not make you a priest of the Most High's priesthood. So,
if I can, I just wanted to add this onto what Shamar and Montel had said, because I just read it yesterday, and it ties into what you're talking about. If that were the case, because I was reading Genesis chapter 8, and it's going back to when Noah was obeying the commands of the Father, and even he offered burnt offerings when he got out of the ark. but we know that he wasn't a Levite because he was the father of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. So
absolutely. Thank you for that witness. It just, again, it's a lot to keep in your mind as you're talking, as teachers are teaching. Sometimes, you know, you get riled up and your mind gets to going and you say things that you can't verify. You say things that you can't present witnesses for. That's why I try not to get riled up. I try to stay on topic. I try to stay with what's prepared, because when you start freestyling, sometimes you say things that's not true. I don't want to call people liars, but you say things that's not in the text. So David wearing an ephod and David offering sacrifices does not equate to a priesthood. Let's go back. Go ahead. Go ahead, Op.
See if somebody is anybody trying to get in?
I don't see anyone.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
I don't see anybody. Yeah, just holler if you do, because my head be down. So let's go back to 2 Samuel, because there's another claim that people make, and it's coming from 2 Samuel 8:18. 2 Samuel 8:18. Second Samuel chapter 8, and we're just going to pick up verse 18. Shema.
Shema.
Read.
And Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over both the Ketherites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were chief rulers.
So 2 Samuel 8:18 is where they take you to and say, see, David anointed his sons to be priests. 2 Samuel 8:18. And Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over both the Kerethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were chief rulers. So the brother says, see, David's sons were chief rulers. So he says, let's go to the Strongs and let's look up chief rulers. And so let's do that right now. Let's go to Blue Letter Bible and let's look up this word in the Blue Letter Bible.
The word in the blue letter, Kohan.
Hold on, let me get on the screen so everyone can see, so we're not making stuff up. So if you're not familiar with the Blue Letter Bible, it's a great resource. You use it properly. You can type in words or verses. So that's 2 Samuel 8. Oh, my history was there. So you type in 2 Samuel 8:18 and you use tools. You hit that interlinear button and it parses out the verse for you, right? And Shamoya, how's the visuals? Is it readable?
Khan, you might want to zoom in. Zoom in one.
So like Shamoya was saying, this is 2 Samuel 8:18, and you parse it out and you go down to that word, and David's sons were chief rulers. David's sons were chief rulers. So the brother went here and he says, see, let's look up this word chief rulers, and it's Strong's H3548, and it's Kahan. And you click on that link and it says priests. So the position was David was a priest, and it's only natural he makes his sons priests. And that's a gross error. Again, you're teaching the text as if the Messiah, as if the Father are schizophrenic, when he already set the order up that the Levites were to minister before me. So he went to, and this lexicon is based on, Strong uses it, and it's also based on the Chaldee lexicon. And the brother says, I use many lexicons just to verify things. I use 2 and 3 different lexicons. And I was waiting for him to go to another one, but he didn't. He stopped here and made his point and said, see, that word chief rulers, David made his sons priests. But if you be a Berean and actually do pull up multiple lexicons, you get the truth of the matter, what David was saying, or what David really said, because we're dealing with corrupted text, remember? So let's go to this is one of my favorite ones I like. This is one of my favorite ones I like. It's also based on the Chaldee lexicon. But let me see if I take you back to the beginning so you can see how this works. Let me see. I'm gonna pull this down so you can operate this at your own. So this is the Tinsdale Archive of Biblical Studies, and there's all types of writings in here. I've checked all these out. Hebrew and Aramaic dictionary. You got a Coptic. This Coptic means Egyptian dictionary. You got the Genesius Biblical and Aramaic dictionary. This is to help me learn our culture, to help me learn our words, right? So the most thing I like about this one, it has an English Hebrew dictionary, and you could type in, click on a letter in English. And what word are we looking for? We're looking for rulers or prince, right? So you type in P, and I'm going to go to the prince, and I'm going to show you we have multiple words for ruler. We have multiple words for rulers. Let me go back one. You see priest up there? Oh, prince. Okay. So. And you see they copied this, the page is crooked, so just bear with us. But how's the visuals on that? Read it. Try to make as best I can. So here's the Hebrew, SELAH, here's the English word prince. Can everybody see that? So for the Hebrew, you have to keep in mind the generation, like we brought out before. Words we use in our community changes almost every 5-10 years. I guess now y'all saying, young folks are saying things are dripping and things are wet and all this stuff. It's the same with the scriptures. The word that Moses used when Ezra came around, Ezra wouldn't use that same Hebrew word because he's part of a new generation. So this first word here is a long word, and I'm not going to try to butcher it up for you, but it can be used as a prince, sastrap, chief governors, Persian officers, right? Then this word here, this is the word for man, A-S, Ash. So sometimes, depending on the generation, they could just use the same word that we have for man to describe a ruler. Then we get some more words, right? For the sake of time, I'm just going to cut to the chase and give you the most popular ones. Okay. So I'm sorry, I can't make this. So this is, y'all see, this is Prince Continue. This is Prince Continue. And I can't make it any bigger. But the most popular words we have for prince or rulers is Nasa. Nasa was translated as Nasi. Nasi. um, I'm trying to think of someone y'all may know with the name Nasi. But some elders take the title Nasi, and our culture is just Nasa. And this is the Nasa right here. This is a N, the SH sound right here, and this is the A, Nasa. And it says, one lifted up in esteem, honor, a prince, a king, the princes of the tribes of Judah. So all David's sons will be called Nasa. They are princes because their father David is the king. So if they come from David line, now not all of Judah or come from David line. Only David's sons come from his loins, his sons and grandsons. They are princes. The rest of us, we're just Judah. We are the royal tribe, but we're not of the kingship. So the most popular word is not Nasa. And then y'all sitting down? Are y'all sitting down? Does anyone know what these letters right here spell out? Starting on the right side, huh?
Shara or Shar, or I know that's a Shah. Look like a Shah and a Ra.
He's right on. He's right on. The two most popular words for rulers in Hebrew is Nasa, became Nasi in the English Nasi, but it's Nasha or it's Shar. SH sound, RR, Shar. The definition: captain, commander, chief, a prince, courtier, an archangel, or one of the 7 principal angels which surround the throne of Yah. Shar. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Shar?
Yeah, it goes with Yashar Allah.
Come on, Yashar Allah. We are the princes of Yah who have authority. The word Allah, like when you hear the Muslims say, all praise be to Allah, to us, all you saying is all praise be to Yah. Because for us Israelites, Allah is the most high Yah. So when we say we're Yashar Allah, we are the princes of Yah who have authority on the earth. That's why when I say, when we call each other Israelites, it's a disrespect to the Most High, because when we call each other Israelites, you don't hear Yah name in it. Nara, you had your hand up?
Is that where Exodus 17 and 15 comes from? And Moses built an altar and called the name of it. Of course, in the KJV, it's Jehovah Nisi, but is it Yahweh Nasa?
It would be Yahweh Nasa. He's the captain. He's the host. He's the ruler. Great witness. Great witness. Great witness.
Can we go look at ruler on here?
Queen wants to go look at rulers. So what other word do we know that has Shar in it? Other word or name that has Shar in it? Shara.
Our matriarch's name, Shara.
Shara. The I at the end, the I, the AH, it represents life, because when you say ha, your breath, your spirit is coming out. So Shara, she gave life to the princess. You see how everything makes sense in our culture? That's why I despise everything from Christianity. I despise everything from Rome, Greece, Latin. If it's not Israelite, I hate it. I hate it with the hate of I hate it. So David's sons became princes. They became Shar or Nas or Nasas or Nasiam. So Queen wants to go just to be a Berean. She wants to go back and let's look at the word ruler, see what they got for ruler.
They don't have it.
Let me see. It may help. Rule. So here's rule. So rule on the next page, maybe rule it on the next page. Wrong. Oh no. So it has rule, it doesn't have ruler. I can't move it over. Nasab Prince. Great eye. So I know it's hard to see. I can't magnify too much, but if you look up the word rule, you see Nasa again. Here's Nasa, N-S-H-A, Nasa, prince. It says a prince. So if you look up the word ruler or prince in the Hebrew, we have Shar or Nasa are going to be the most popular ones. So the text say, 2 Samuel 8:18 said David made his sons chief rulers. But you have to be a Berean. You can't stop at the Strongs because like we brought out in the Bible in Black 2 conference, sometimes these lexicons are wrong because they're composed by pagans. And they've been in our land stealing, pilfering for years, for centuries. So you can't rely on one man. You can't rely on Strong's all the time. But this brother went to Strong's after saying that he used multiple lexicons, but you didn't. You stopped at Strong's to prove your point. Now, I don't know if he forgot. I don't know if he got tired. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because we're not about destroying our brothers. We're about uplifting. But when I hear stuff like this, it causes me to raise my antenna. Do you have an agenda? Are you trying to prove your position? Or are you really trying to teach the text in truth? Because if he had to use multiple lexicons, he would have seen that verse there, that David made his sons chief rulers, and you just stopped at priests. Well, of course, you prove your point. Then the brother also says in his introduction, as he's warming up, he says, and he actually did it a couple of times. He actually went and looked some or cross-referenced some scriptures inside the Septuagint. And this is, this is not to knock any. I'm for the people letting y'all know you have to be Bereans. I don't care how long someone's been teaching. I don't care if they raise the dead in front of you. You be Bereans. Because he said that he went and checked the Septuagint for a couple verses, but then when he got to that verse, he didn't do it. And if he had, he would have found out that the Masoretic is corrupt. So let's check this verse in the Septuagint. 2 Samuel 8, let me pull this down. We're going to check the same verse in the Septuagint, family. A text that's almost 1,000 years older than the Masoretic King James. This site is really a weirdo site. Every time I go here, I said I was going to use that no more because it doesn't have read mode. All right, I'm gonna go to a different site. I'm gonna use the site that has read mode. Let me see if this one has it. This one doesn't have read mode. I hate this site. All right, for the sake of time, I hate this site. But most of you have your Septuagints. This site doesn't have the read mode. But just Google any Septuagint and verify this verse in the Septuagint. And in the Septuagint, 2 Samuel is going to be 2 Kings. The Septuagint have 4 books of Kings. The first 2 Kings is family. It says it right there on the screen for you. So if you got a Septuagint or old Septuagint, 2 Kings is actually 2 Samuel. So let's verify this verse in the Septuagint, a text that's like almost 1,000 years older than the King James. And I apologize, it doesn't have read mode. So this is 2 Kings or 2 Samuel 8:18. I'm gonna start it at verse 15. What do you want? All right, let me find one for y'all. Anybody got any questions while I pull one up? Or
Listen, we could I saw it. They said, yeah, it said he made his sons rulers of the court, princes of the court.
I want to get a good sight. You know, this is how you got to present, because people, these internet gurus come at you, and so I want it plain so everyone can read it, that King David did not anoint his sons to be priests. He doesn't have the authority to. So let me find a modern translation. I think this is, here we go. There's a modern one. King David does not have the authority to anoint anyone to be priest. He's a king. He's from Judah. He's not from Levi. So let's go to 2 Samuel 8. And let's start it at verse 15. Sorry about the ass, family. So this is what King David really did when he was setting things up before he died. This is 2 Samuel 8, starting at verse 15. And David reigned over all of Yasharal. And David wrought judgment and justice over all his people. That's what a king does. But guess who was over the king in our nation, family? Anybody? Who's over the king?
You said who's over the king?
Yes, who's over the king?
Yahushua.
Yahushua, but the Levites. Remember that the king always goes to the priest to find out what he should do. The righteous king, that is, the righteous kings. The righteous kings always went to his prophet or his seer to seek Yah for him to give him instructions. So David reigned over all Israel, and David wrought judgment and justice over all his people. Verse 16, and Joab, the son of Sariah, over the host, and Joshaphat, the son of Alkalu, of the records, and Zadok, the son of Akatab, and Achimelech, the son of Abathar, priest, and Sasha, the scribe. But verse 18, and Benaias, son of Jediah, counselor, and Selahite and the Pelethite, and the sons of David were princes of the court. Now, in my Septuagint, I have an older Septuagint translated by Britton. His name is Lancelot Britton. It reads more directly. This is in my Septuagint. It says, same verses, I'm starting at 15 again. And David reigned over all Israel, and David wrought judgment and justice over all his people. And Joab, the son of Zeruiah, was over the host, that's the army. And Josaphat, the son of Achalad, was keeper of the records. He kept the library. He kept the articles of the records of the kings. He kept all our ancient writings. So he's a librarian, right? Verse 17. And Zadok, the son of Akatab, and Achlemet, son of Abathar, were priests. Well, wait a minute. Why did he list his sons with the priest? See how you have to use textual criticism? He just lists the priest, and his sons are not listed with the priest. It continues on in my version of the Septuagint. It says, lost my place. It's dark in here. And the sons of David were princes of the court. The sons of David, oh, it matches that, were princes of the court. So David didn't anoint his sons to be priests. He made them rulers or captains over the court. David doesn't have authority. He doesn't have authority to anoint anyone to be priests. But this is how these people were tying these doctrines together, that David had a priesthood and he anointed his sons priests. So you have to be Bereans family. You have to kick it. You have to keep it in context. My suggestion, I get lazy too, and sometimes I forget. That's why I think that the ox coming to remind me. Right now, we're up to, me and Shamaria just updated our list the other night. I'm up to 30 verses in the Old Testament that's been altered in the Masoretic text. 30 verses. If this was a scholastic work and you find 30 errors, 30 alterations, and in their world of scholarship, you would throw the Old Testament out because it's no good. It's no good. So that's why when you're reading the Old Testament family, verify everything against the Septuagint. David did not anoint his sons to be priests. He made them rulers of the court. And if the brother had checked the Septuagint, if he was consistent, he would have saw that. So that's what made me wonder, like, are you trying to push your doctrine, or did you just innocently forget to check the Septuagint? So these are the things. Go ahead, Al.
Did you I don't know if I missed it, but did you explain what that means, rulers of the court?
Rulers of the court, well, their dad is a king. So if you're a king and you have kids, what did that make your children? Your daughter is a what? A princess, and your son is a prince. So they are over the court. They're helping rule the court.
Well, I was saying more specifically, just so that this one, and if I'm wrong, just let me know if I'm wrong. I'm fine, it's fine. But I'm thinking it's talking about the pretty much the order, almost like the temple. I know the temple didn't come fully till Solomon though, but if you listing the priests and then saying, but my sons will be over the court, that's almost like, you know how when they did end up having the temple, we had the inner and the outer courts, and certain people couldn't come to certain areas. Then I'm sure they had to have some people over those different courts that, regulating it. So I feel like it's some type of relation to the congregation of people and how they were to rule over that certain area.
I would say there's some validity, without us digging and to verify that with witnesses, I would say there's some validity to that, because like you said, people don't understand how massive the temple was. The temple was the first great wonder of the world, even though we didn't see it. But this temple was massive. So what Shamaria is saying, without having our witnesses, it has some weight to it. David made his sons captains or rulers over the court. When you come through the gates, you're not going straight into the inner temple to see the priests. We have order, we have structure in our government. So that if that brother had took the time to check 2 Samuel 8:18 and Septuagint, he would have, well, I don't know if he would have, but he would have had to adjust his position. David was not a priest. David didn't anoint his sons to be priests at all. And we just verified the Strong's word, 3547 versus the Tinsdale. So if you stop at the Strong's, then yeah, he made his sons Kohans. But if you be a Berean and go further and check Tinsdale, you will see that our word for rulers, we have several. The most popular ones is Nasah or Shar. David made his sons to be Shar or Nasas, not priests, not priests. So again, be Bereans and check the Septuagint for everything inside the Old Testament.
Why does the blue letter have it as Kohan like that?
Again, we brought it out at Bible in Black too. Sometimes these lexicons, these they're pagans. They get it wrong. They get it wrong. And sometimes I catch them. That's why if you use the pictures, and you understand what the pictures means, you be like, man, that's not lining up. And that's how you have record. You have a witness that whoever composed this lexicon, he used the wrong Hebrew word. These pictures bring our scrolls back to life. These pictures are alive. Good question. Good question. So the last point I will address that I heard in the presentation.
Real quick, because I just wanted to get like a visual of the representation of the order in my mind. So if you had to put it in like more modernized, carnal terms, I guess, if you were to look at this like a courthouse, because what Shemaryah said, it made me think of when the Most High told Moses to get men of renown that had the spirit on them to look over and judge over the hundreds, the 50s, and the 10s, and so on and so forth. That's just what came to my mind. So maybe to help somebody in the future that hears this at a later date, if you were to put it in the context of a judge house, and obviously the Most High through Yahushua is the judge, would you say that the Levites are the lawyers, so to speak, who intercede and tell you the case in point to the judge, and then whatever the judgment is, the tribe of Judah are the law enforcers, as in this case, as far as like King David and his seed, they're the ones who enforce the judgment after it's been passed down to the Levites. Is that kind of how it goes?
Again, without us presenting witnesses, because now that we don't introduce the plumb line, we can't be hypocrites. But same as what I said about Shemaryah, what you're saying has validity to it, because the priests, their job of sacrificing for us all day and keeping the candles lit, they have a lot to do. So like Nariah is saying, you're not going to you're not going to be able to interrupt them. So we have order. Now, once the judgment comes, and then maybe someone's refusing to adhere, then yeah, the Judah, the courts, the men of the court, the priests, the rulers, the princes, the rulers, the captain of the courts are going to come while you haven't paid that fine for that sheep you stole, why you haven't did such and such. So what Nariah is saying, without us present our witnesses, it has validity to it. Our nation is huge. Our nation is huge, and we need order. We need heads of 10, heads of 50. So what Nariah is presenting has weight to it. Like, and again, these pagans here in the United States Rome set their judicial system up like us. And of course, we know the United States is just baby Rome. But what's the highest court you can take a case to here? The Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the highest court. And that's how we are in Israel. When you get to the Levites, when you get to the high priest, that means you done heard from your elder of your tribe. You didn't like him or whatever. You done took it to the captain of 50. Then you done went to the temple, and now you done met some of David's sons, and then you still have a grievance, and now you're going, I want to talk to the high priest. So what Nariah is saying, without bringing our witnesses, it has some serious weight that you can verify or that you can research further. If that makes sense. That makes sense. That was a great point, Op. That was a great point. Any other questions before we move on? Any other points? Did I miss anybody? So the last point that the brother made, and after this, we'll open up the floor for any other topics, open topics. He says, let's go to Matthew. Let's go to the birth of Messiah, Hamashiach. Let's go to the birth of Hamashiach. Matthew 1. And I had never heard this. I was like, wow, like, this blew my mind. This really blew my mind. And for the record, I don't know if I said this. If you do believe that Joseph is the father, if you don't believe in the virgin birth, it's not a condemnation unto hell. Sin is transgression of the law. As far as I can see so far, not believing that Mary was a virgin doesn't count as a sin. The one sin the Messiah did tell them that's going to send them to hell is not believing that he was sent from the Father. So if you don't believe that Hamashiach was sent from his Father, that will lead you to hell, because we have the King himself saying that. Not believing that his mother was an untouched woman, we don't have any records that will lead you to hell. If I miss the scripture, y'all send it to me or bring it out now. But far as I can read, I see typos all in this thing. Good grace in the morning. But far as I can read, not believing in the virgin birth is not a transgression unto death. But rejecting the Son as the Son of the Most High will lead you to hell. So those out there who hold the position that Joseph impregnated Mary, you know, if that's your understanding, then so be it. We're trying to do a service to give you a different position that, you know, Joseph is not the father, but if you still want to hold to that doctrine, that's not a point of sending you to hell. And for me, it's not a point of contention. If you can show me black and white without you leaning towards your own understanding, without you exegeting, pulling things out the text, if you can show me a phrase that Joseph knew Mary, if you can show me a phrase Joseph went in unto Mary, then I will definitely take another look. No topic for the Torah group is ever off the floor, but we don't find that phrase nowhere about the birth of Messiah. That phrase is used with Isaiah and his wife, that the prophet went unto, that the prophet Isaiah 7, around 14 or somewhere. We read in black and white that the prophet went in unto the prophetess. We can read that. But when it comes to Mary and Joseph, you can't show me no pseudepigraphers, no apocryphas. You can't show me any record where we see the phrase Joseph went in unto Mary. If I missed it, please send it to me. This is for the nation. It's not about one man. So let's finish this virgin birth notes up, and let's just read. Let me see where he had pointed something out. I was like just flabbergasted. Like where did he find this stuff at? The birth of Christ. And for when they bring him into the temple after her purification, family. Like the chapter 3. Maybe it's not in Matthew. And just while we're here, I'll show you what I mean. Matthew chapter 1, verse 25. Matthew 1, verse 25. Can you read that for us?
Matthew, which one?
Matthew 1, verse 25.
Yeah, Matthew 1 and verse 25. All right. Matthew 1 and verse 25 is not in there. Oh yeah, it is. and knew her not till she had brought forth her firstborn son, and he called his name Jesus.
So the text here, it says, and knew her not. It doesn't say, and knew her not again. So I'm objective, I'm not indoctrinated, and I'm not attacking any one position. I'm saying let's reason together. Show me a verse that says, and knew her not again, or show me a verse that says, and he went in unto Mary and she conceived. That's what I'm saying. We have black and white precepts, black and white writings. We're not exegeting, we're not drawing anything out. We have text that says he knew her not. So my request for those who say Joseph was the father, please show me a verse, not that you are putting a bunch of verses together and you're using circumstantial evidence to say, see, Messiah was born just like a regular man, but it doesn't discount his authority. I understand you're not discounting his authority. I understand you're not discounting his deity, so to speak, but please show me the verses that actually say that Joseph knew her. Joseph went in unto her. If you find it, please forward it to me, and I would definitely add it and verify or correct or revisit this topic. But y'all willing, we're going to do a full breakdown from start to finish. I just felt it necessary while this was still fresh in my mind to just address a couple of the points that the brother brought out. It was, let me Google this real quick, because he said something that was like, I was like floored by it.
In Luke?
Was it you found it, Queen?
I'm not sure. I'm not
maybe.
sure what you're talking about, Luke.
After the days of her purification.
Yeah, Luke.
Is it Luke
2:22? Chapter 2:22. I'm not sure.
Let's go over to Luke. Queen says she found it in Luke.
I think.
So after the days of her purification.
Yeah, Luke 2:22.
Okay, we're going to Luke 2:22, family. Luke chapter 2, verse 22. Shabbat, you have it. Thank you so much. The water of God, Queen. Luke 2:22. When you get it out, just go ahead and read it.
And when the days of her purification, according to the law of Hamashiach, were accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Most High.
So this brother went here, or he alluded to this verse, and he says, see, Mary was unclean. And if Mary was unclean, it couldn't have been a virgin birth. And I was like, what? He says Mary being unclean is further testimony or is a valid point that Joseph had went in unto her. And I was like, that's why you gotta be, you can't be enamored, you can't be starstruck with these brothers with their great channels and their presentations, because they'll slide things in there because now they don't want your confidence. And now they don't want your confidence, they're sliding things in their presentation that they can't prove. So he goes here, or he paraphrased, or he alluded to this, saying that Mary had to wait till after her purification to go dedicate Messiah, and that verifies that it wasn't a virgin birth, or it adds weight to his position that it wasn't a virgin birth. And can you read that again? Because it tells you right there why she had to do it. Luke 2:22.
Well, I was gonna read 23. So 22 says, and when the days of her purification, according to the law.
According to what?
According to the law of Masha.
According to the law of Masha, not that Joseph had went in unto her. Going in. Having relations, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you have it. Having relations with your wife doesn't make you unclean. It's the bodily fluids that come from that makes you and your husband or wife unclean. So even if Joseph had went in unto her, that doesn't make her unclean. But he used this to see she had to wait for her purification. If it was a pure virgin birth, she wouldn't have been unclean. Go ahead, Al.
It's pretty much the same thing I was going to say. I mean, it was just already written in the law. If you have a son, this is what you do. If you have a daughter, this is what you do for the days of your after the when it's time for the day of your purification, and it tells you how long you are to wait and everything. So she's just following the law, and they have to prepare a sacrifice, which that's what verse 24 is telling you. That, you know, it's a certain sacrifice that has to be prepared, a pair of turtle doves and 2 young pigeons for her offering for purification after giving birth. It don't got nothing to do with whether you had sex or not.
And since we said it, let's read it out of the Torah. Let's go to Leviticus 15, and then we'll move on to any other questions about any other topics, or if y'all want to keep chopping away at this. Let's go to Leviticus 15 and I think it's 19. Leviticus 15 and 19. All Mary doing is following the Torah law. Not that Joseph had touched her. She's full of blood and what else happens? Placenta. Thank you, Queen. She's full of blood and placenta and what's that fluid in the sac? Amniotic
fluid.
She's full of that stuff. So let's read it out of the Torah. Leviticus 15 and 19.
Yeah, I don't think it's 19.
No, I pulled the wrong one.
It's like 20 something, I think. 20.
Notorious for that. Y'all know I'm going from memory most times. Just scan around for I may be Leviticus 15 and 18. The woman also with whom man shall lie with seed of copulation. They should both bathe themselves in water and be unclean to the evening. So that's another contradiction of his position, because if laying with Joseph had made her unclean, well, when they shower, she's clean, even though she's with child. If after you lay with your mate and y'all bathe, y'all unclean until that same evening or to the next evening. So that's a contradiction of his position, that Mary being unclean is a witness that Joseph went in unto her. So Leviticus 15 and 18, I'll read it again. The woman also with whom man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean till evening. So if they hadn't laid together that day, Mary wouldn't be unclean. His position doesn't have a weight to it. And it continues on. Yeah, it is 19. It is 19. And if a woman, this is Leviticus 15 and 19. And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever touches her should be unclean until evening. Now, this is saying, you know, she's sick with an issue, but the one we're looking for is for childbirth.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That right there, it sounds like the monthly or whatever. But yeah, that's not the one I was. Leviticus 12. Is it 12? If a woman conceive, Leviticus 12 and 2, if a woman conceive seed and born a man child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, according to the days of the separation for her infirmity shall she be unclean. And in the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised, and then she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 33 days, or 33 days. She shall touch no hallowed thing, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying be fulfilled. And then it talks about if she has a baby girl and what she is to do as well.
Keep going for a minute. Just keep going.
All right. Let me go back then. But if she bear a maid child, then she shall be unclean for 2 weeks, as in her separation, and she shall continue in the blood of her purifying threescore and 6 days.
So it's
So
double for a female child. For a male child, it's 33 days, and then for a female child, it's 66 days. So the point is made. Go ahead. What you want to make a point?
no, just that it says, and I guess verse 6, and when the days of her purifying are fulfilled for a son or a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, unto the priest, who shall offer it before Yahweh and make an atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the issue of her blood. This is the law for her that have born a male or a female. And then if she not be able to bring a lamb, Mary was not able to bring a lamb, according to what we saw, then she shall bring 2 turtles and 2 young pigeons. And that's what Matthew is saying, that she brought 2 turtles and 2 young pigeons, probably because they was poor. But
so his positions that he offered cannot be verified with witnesses. So this is how we're going to walk down different ideologies and different theories, pretty much, that's been presented, to give people a different perspective and a different way to break down scripture. We have to obey the Father and present our witnesses. We just can't, because we done read something and we feel we got a hold of something, and now we got a following, now we can start sliding things in there without verifying things, because that's what the Christian church has been doing. We can't leave one religion for another. So we have to be Bereans. We can't be, starstruck and become groupies of these people. I don't know if the brother meant well or not, but when I see these things, it causes me to pause. It does something to my spirit, because like you opened up with that you check several lexicons when you verifying things. You actually went into the Septuagint to cross-reference another scripture, but when you get to David's sons being priests, you fail to cross-reference the Septuagint. You fail to use multiple lexicons to look that word up. So this is what, when my spirit is vexed, you guys have to just, be Bereans and make sure these people are presenting their witnesses. If they say something and they throw a lot of facts on the wall, if you're intimate or if you have a chance, ask them for the source of what they said. Make sure you're taking notes. If it's published on YouTube, you can go back and you can write down the minute mark they said that. And ask them, hey, you have a source for that? You said this. You have a source? Because these brothers are growing their ministries, growing their channels, and now they have a reputation. And now, once they have a reputation, it's like no one is vetting what they're presenting. And we're never going to do that here at the Torah Group. I don't care how long we be together, we're always going to vet everything that we eat here. So that's all I had. I just wanted to go over those couple points of the virgin birth class I heard. Any other topics or any other questions about the virgin birth?
Yeah, I mean, since we already here, I mean, I sat down and I watched that video, so I might as well talk about it.
Go ahead.
He said it was a lot of stuff in there that I thought you would have probably said something about, but I don't, the thing with we talked about it last time, the Emmanuel with us, but according to what the position is saying, it was showing that from Matthew's 1, and you great at this stuff, so you'll be able to help me for sure. Matthew's 1 verse 17, after that, everything until chapter 3 was added. So I don't know if you could help or with the validity of that.
Well, the reference that he cited, I had actually found it, I don't know how long ago. I had actually bookmarked it on my work computer. So that one site, the one reference that the book of Matthew has been altered, it was, again, it's like you're not being fair, you're not being objective. Did those one particular group have an altered text of Matthew, or did everyone? These are the questions you have to, that's why your skill set is so valuable, Shamaria, because you have that active listening. You're actually listening to what's being said. I'm not saying everyone else is not, but Shamaria has demonstrated time and time again. And you know when someone is actually listening because you're asking the right questions. So he presented a document, or he presented a reference that these people had a butchered copy of Matthew. But does that mean everyone had a butchered copy of Matthew? Because I have a copy of Matthew, and I thought he was referencing that copy, but he didn't mention it. But if you go to, let me pull it up since we're here. If you go and download the Hebrew copy of Matthew, it reads a lot better, and it says plainly, you know that Mary was a virgin. There's no way you're going to get Joseph touched her out of this copy of Matthew.
That's what I was wondering about that. I ain't taken time yet to go do all the verification because we was going to talk about it. But I was wondering, I was like, well, we got a Hebrew copy supposedly of Matthew. I said, well, I need to see what that said. I wonder what that says, but I ain't, I didn't check.
That's what I thought. I thought he was on to something. I thought he was letting me know that this copy of Matthew, this told Matthew is corrupt. And I was like, okay. But then when I went to the reference and I had already had the site bookmarked, I'm like, he's not referencing this copy of Matthew. So let me find this on my drive. My drive is really unorganized, but I know I got it somewhere on here. I'm gonna pull up this Hebrew copy of Matthew, and you can see it. It reads pretty much black and white that Joseph did not touch Mary at all.
So, cause that, like, why are you looking for that? So it's saying that it was just one source saying that all that stuff was added.
Yeah, so the group that he referred to, they had proven that another group added the text to it, and their position was they added the part about the virgin birth to their text. And well, I can't deny that claim, but we have records from the first, second century of a man named what's the man name? I got his record too. Papias. Papias was around right after the apostles died, and I have his record. You can download the works of Papias as a PDF. And Papias confessed that he never met the apostles, but he met the apostles' apostles. So he confessed that he never knew or got to talk to John. John was the last apostle to live. So Papias confessed that he never met the apostles, but he met their disciples. And Papias testifies that Matthew went and collected all the writings of the apostles that he could, and Matthew started writing the apostles' letters back into Hebrew. Now, what's unknown is who took Matthew's Hebrew records and translated them into Greek. No one knows that. And that's when you get these so-called church fathers coming on the scene. Jerome was literate and multilingual. So Papias testified that Matthew found as many writings he could, referring to the letters of the New Testament, and Matthew wrote them or translated them into Hebrew. Someone went and translated them back into Greek, and that's when things get muddied up. So this is the Hebrew copy of Matthew. It was translated by a Hebrew. I don't know if he was a Khazar or a real Hebrew, but his name is Shem Tov. Shem Tov. So you can download this offline as a free PDF, and it tells you the history of this. It tells you how they found it. It tells you how it was translated. And we're not gullible. We're not fools. We don't believe everything that's put in the book. But when you start seeing that the British Museum has it, the Vatican has it, well, these museums have curators, has educated people. They're not going to put something in their museum that has not been vetted, because now your museum becomes Sanford and Son. So what I'm saying is, you can do the research and you can read the history of this Hebrew copy of Matthew on your own. I'm not here to convert. I'm not here to indoctrinate. I've read the history of it. You can read it for yourself. But the fact that these British people put it in the British Museum, they're not putting a bunch of garbage and plagiarized text inside their museum. So let's go to the virgin birth. Let's go to Matthew chapter 1, and let's read it from the Hebrew. And what I like about this record, it has Hebrew on one side and English in the other, and you can parse it out yourself, the letters back to verify what it's saying. It's a great exercise to learn the second generation of letters. So,
Nariah got a question or nothing? I don't know.
Go ahead, Ak, you had something? Nariah, you still there?
I was just gonna wait until after y'all finish talking, because this is kind of like off topic, but it's another subject regarding the like just the Q&A. But so it can wait. It can wait. I'll go ahead and lower my hand.
Okay. All right. All praises. So this is the Hebrew copy of Matthew, and this is on the left side. This is what we call the block script, the Syrian script, and it's very hard to make these letters out sometimes because some of our letters look alike. But if you do the work, you can come really close to what's being said. But these apostrophes, and we don't have this syntax in our culture. This is all stuff we picked up from the pagans. But if you want to learn the second generation, you can parse this back out. So here's the birth of Messiah, translated from the Hebrew, right? And let's go. Can you see this on your side?
Yeah.
Let's pick it up at verse 18, Matthew 1:18.
The birth of Jesus, or Yahushua, was in this way. It came to pass when his mother was betrothed to Joseph, before he knew her.
What?
Before he knew her.
What?
Before he knew her.
Now let me tell you why this is such a strong point, family. Let me tell you why this is such a strong point. It says, when his mother was engaged to Joseph, before he knew her. This record that we're reading, this Hebrew right here, this is from a man who was a rabbinical Jew. The rabbinical Jews don't accept Messiah. So if this rabbinical Jew, who we call Talmudist, he's a byproduct, he's a grandson of the Israelites who killed Messiah. If this Talmudist is saying before he knew her, family, this is like this Talmudist's greatest chance to discredit Messiah. We have a Talmudist writing that before. You see how the power of Yahweh, you can't stop this. You can't deny our Messiah. You can't discredit our Messiah. This Talmudist is writing a record, and he has an older copy of Matthew, and he's saying, read it again,
And it came to pass when his mother was betrothed to Joseph, before he knew her, she was found pregnant by the Rawat, or the set apart.
Textual criticism, I would ask, we got a Talmudist who they hate Messiah, but this man found it in his heart to write the truth about the Messiah that his elders killed. Family, you have to consider these things. Any man who considers himself a scholar, anyone who considers themselves learned, you have to check the editor, the publisher, the translator. We have a record from a Talmudist, a rabbi, the descendants of those who killed Messiah, saying before Joseph knew her. Read on.
Joseph was a righteous man and did not wish to dwell with her, nor to expose her by bringing her to shame.
Stop.
Or to,
oh no, go ahead, finish that up, Bob.
Or to bind her over to death. He rather wished to conceal her.
Joseph, being a righteous man. What does righteous mean, family?
He keep the law.
He keeps the law. How righteous would Joseph be, knowing he done went in unto Mary and impregnated her, and now you're going to put her away, and even if you put her away, we Hebrews, we talk. Someone's going to find out, and you know Mary cheated on Joseph, and that's why she over here, and then they could bring charges, and she still could be killed. So how righteous would Joseph be putting Mary away, pretty much scandalizing her name as being a chaste daughter of Zion, and you call him righteous? And these brothers, I'm not trying to scoff at them. These brothers read the text that Joseph was a righteous man. And they feel that he's being righteous by concealing her that she's pregnant. No, if that's his baby, being righteous is going down to the priest, knowing that you could be killed, and saying, hey, priest, you know, me and the virgin couldn't abstain, and now we done did this. That's what righteous would be. So again, these brothers, this sister, I'm part of a group chat, and this sister sent out something, prophetess sent this out. And I'm not going to read it all, but this fits what's going on with a lot of these brothers with their ministries. Let me read just some of it. She sent this group text out, and it's a whole, it's quotes about wisdom and intelligence, right? This says, intelligence leads to arguments, wisdom leads to settlements. Intelligence is power of will, wisdom is power over will. Intelligence is heat, it burns. Wisdom is warmth, it comforts. It goes on and on comparing intelligence and wisdom. And I added to it, intelligence can be taught, it can be trained, it can be learned. You teach a dog to sit, you teach a dog to fetch, but wisdom comes from Yah. It's a gift of Yah. So you get a lot of these brothers puffed up, reading all these books. You could buy as many books as your pocketbook allow. That's not going to give you wisdom from above. What's happening to us, family, we're repenting, coming back to the covenant the best we can, and Yah is shedding his wisdom upon us. Hallelujah. So if you don't have this copy, this Hebrew copy of Matthew, download it. This Hebrew copy of Matthew, family, it confirms the virgin birth. It confirms that Messiah was not killed on Passover. It confirms that our day in Israel does not start at sunset. All this is inside this Hebrew copy of Matthew. Shamaria, did you have anything else out?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was up here writing these notes, but I was like, oh, we're going to talk about this. And I do got, and I think some stuff it'll be good for other people. So, well, we explained last time that when it's saying, quote unquote, God with us, it's a sign. It's not saying, because again, they were saying that all this wasn't in the text. So that was one point, according to one source, though, which I didn't mark that down, that it was just one source. But again, so I'll just move on to the next point. So double prophecy, possibly. Did you remember that part?
Yeah, so let me try to bring some clarity for those who may not be aware. So when you go to Isaiah 7 and 14, Isaiah 14 is about Isaiah's children. And the son that Isaiah had, it says that he will be called Emmanuel, which means God is with us. So when it's quoted here in Matthew, when Matthew mentions the Isaiah prophecy right here, verse 23, behold, the young woman is conceiving and will bear a son, and you will call his name Emmanuel, that is God with us. It wasn't a physical calling him Emmanuel, because A, Isaiah didn't call his son Emmanuel. He named him something else. And then B, there's no record of any of our ancients ever calling Messiah Emmanuel. What they're forgetting or what they're not understanding, Isaiah's son being called Emmanuel and Messiah being called Emmanuel, you put it back in the Hebrew, and what it's saying, just like Isaiah's son was a sign, a token that Yah is still with Israel, and he was going to overthrow the armies that was facing Judah, this child, Yahawashi, is a sign from Yah that he's still with us. And this child, not the way he was born, it wasn't about Mary's virginity or lack of virginity. Because again, keeping it in context, if you're unmarried in Israel as a sister, it's already a given. You better be a virgin. So our elders had no idea that Mary's virginity was going to be a stumbling block. Hamashiach is being known as Emmanuel. The Hebrew word for name is Sham. Sham can mean your physical name. It can mean your reputation. It can mean being called by. So Messiah, just like Isaiah's son, they wasn't called Emmanuel. They were tokens from Yah that he's still with us and he's going to deliver us. So just like Yah did deliver the Israelites during Isaiah's time, he's going to deliver us by the blood of his son, well, actually by the physical reappearing of his son in our time.
Right. I was going to say, it's like, I don't know if you know off the hand how to say call in Hebrew, but I'll just say
Karab.
Karab.
Karab. Q-A-R-A. Karab. To call, to preach, to call out. Karab.
Kara, so Kara Lasham Emmanuel or Emmanuel, it's like his fame is that he's a symbol that the Most High is with us. So that to me, that's how I see it with the context of Hebrew. Because again, they be adding so many extra words. When you start seeing how we talk, you don't need the extra words with it, and then you'll know like what it's saying. So that's all I had for the virgin birth thing, I think. But
hold on, let me pause, because family, I forgot. Nariah, I didn't forget you. I didn't forget you. I still know you there, but I made a gross mistake and I forgot to bring something out. So going back to the virgin birth, revisited, and going back to King David wearing an ephod. So not knowing the culture leads to a lot of erroneous doctrine. So we demonstrated that little Samuel wore an ephod. Shemaryah alluded to Gideon. Gideon built an ephod. So not understanding our language and our culture leads to false doctrine. It may be innocent, but it still leads to false doctrine. An ephod, the pagans used the word ephod to describe articles of clothing and to describe the ephod that the priest wore. So if y'all can see me right now, I have on two ephods. I have on my ephod necklace, and I'm wearing an ephod around my waist. So I'm going to share this one document just to prove that King David wearing an ephod does not make him a priest. And this is just learning ancient culture. So let me stop this. And let me pull this up. This you can download from Google Books. It's been digitized. And this is the Encyclopedia Biblica. This is volume 2, letters E to K. Letters E to K. And this is going to be some history. We brought this out a year ago because this is not the first time we heard this. Now I think I found where the source comes from. So this is not the first time we heard that David was a priest. But this is, you can download this right off Google Books. If you respect their education, this is from Harvard College Library, right? And this is, I'll give you the whole title so you can go grab it. It's a whole collection. Get as many as you can. This is the Encyclopedia Biblica, a dictionary of the Bible, volume 2. I think I got like 5 or 6 of them on my hard drive. And we're going to read some history about the ephod, right? So for the sake of time, and just so you see, for this source here, you want volume 2. It covers the letters E to K. It covers E to K. And I know some of y'all about my age. The Macmillan Company, all our textbooks in school was published by these people. Strange, right? Strange. So let me control F for ephod. Oh, it's already there. Control F for ephod. It takes a minute to populate. It may take a minute. It's pulling up all the occurrences of ephod. I don't think I have no highlights on this one. And this is just going to put to bed that David was a priest because he wore ephod. It's going to put that to bed. Always makes you a liar when you're trying to. All right, I just go there. So it's making me work. Let me go to ephod. And I give all honor and glory to the Most High because when I was researching this a year ago, this came up on my search, and I was like, thank you, Yah, because I'm telling you, the Father is with us, family. This stuff is not coming from man. So for some reason I can't search. I'm just going to scroll to ephod. Y'all won't believe what kind of morning I had. I got locked out my computer for like an hour. It's terrible. We close. I'm going to read some history about this ephod just to show you that it was a common article for men. It wasn't just for priests. And you can fact check this against the scriptures, and what you'll find out, when the Most High told them to make an ephod for the priests, he didn't have to describe what an ephod was. He just told them to make the priest ephod blinged out, make it with gold, make it with the stones. But the ephod itself as a garment, he didn't have to tell them what that was. They already knew what an ephod was. So an ephod, just to give you a preview while I'm searching, an ephod is an everyday garment in old times. I have one on right now. Guess what ephod became in their tongue? Apron. Any Masons in here? You ever seen the Masons in their garb? Anybody ever seen a Mason in their garb? You see that their aprons, that's an ephods. That's all ephods are. They became aprons in English. So people say David wore an ephod and think he's a high priest, and no, it doesn't agree with the culture. It doesn't agree with the text. You got a lot of Christian doctrine still being taught within Israel, family. You got it. Here we go. So we're going to read the history about this garment we call an ephod. So it starts right here. So let me make this bigger so everyone can see it.
And Moray, what is this literature that you're reading from?
This is the Biblical Encyclopedia Biblical, Volume 2, letters E to K. And then the year, make sure the year is 1699. Biblical Encyclopedia Biblica, Volumes 2, the letters E to K is from 1699. And we're going to read about an ephod. Shimoya, can you see that?
Where it says the boy Samuel or ephod.
You start with ephod and just ignore all that Greek and stuff. Just
yeah, I see it. I got you. A Hebrew word which the English translators have taken over as a technical term. The word
is taken over as a technical. They can't match us word for word, so they're just picking English words to try to match our Hebrew words. Read on.
As a technical term, the word is used in the historical books in two meanings, the connection between which is not clear.
So ephod, by these translators, they use the word ephod in two different contexts. Read on.
The boy Samuel ministered before the Most High, girt with a linen ephod. In the same garb, David, when he brought the ark up to Jerusalem, danced before Yahweh with all his might.
So we brought out before, Samuel was only a little boy. He couldn't have been a priest because you had to be 20 or 25. And then Samuel is an Ephraimite. He's from the tribe of Ephraim. So Samuel as a little boy wearing an ephod doesn't make him a priest, no more than it makes David wearing an ephod a priest. Read on.
It was long the accepted opinion that the linen ephod was the common vestment of the priest, but in 1 Samuel 22:18, linen is a gloss, and the other passages usually alleged in support of the theory speak of bearing or carrying the ephod, not of wearing it.
So it's saying when you see the word linen ephod in the scriptures, the word linen has been added as a gloss because it's an oxymoron. It's like us it's like you telling me, yeah, I'm about to go to the store and buy some leather Jordans. Like, dude, sneakers only come in leather. So in Bible times, just about all ephods were linen. This is another clear indication of ancient source, well, not ancient, 1899, but these are valid records saying that our scriptures have been altered. You just can't open up Exodus, open up Ruth, open up Matthew and think you're reading our records. They've been in the hands of foreigners. Our records have been butchered. You got Israelites and Christians just swear they're killing it, swear they're bringing out truth, not doing their due diligence. Read on.
This ephod was manifestly a scanty garment for Michal.
I'm sorry. The other usage of ephod is one that they carried and not of wearing. So we had an ephod that you wore and an ephod that you carried. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And this ephod was manifestly a scanty garment, for Michal taunts David with indecently exposing himself like any lewd fellow.
So for the sake of time, I'm not going to double back to the scriptures, but go back to, I think it's Exodus 24 or Leviticus 24. And when you read the garments for the priests, their ephod is to be fastened with girdles. If David is dressed like a high priest, he was supposed to have a belt around him. His ephod is tied. How can he dance out his clothes if he got the high priest garments on? A. Then B, the high priest, there's only one high priest uniform, family. There's not multiple high priest uniforms because they took turns. After my turn is done, my brother, a Levite, comes and relieves me. He washes, he puts the uniform on. So how can David be dressed like a high priest and we still got a Levite operating as our high priest? These are things you have to be Bereans. You have to kick it. David was not dressed as a high priest. He just had an ephod on. Read on.
It was probably not a short tunic, as is generally thought, but a loincloth about his waist. Samuel's tunic is mentioned separately, and the verb rendered gird is used in Hebrew not of belting in an outer garment, but only of binding something, girdle, sword belt, linen cloth, about the loins.
This makes more sense how David was able to dance out his ephod. He didn't have the high priest garments on. He had a regular everyday ephod, and he got so happy his ephod came unwrapped and he exposed himself. Now this makes more sense. David was not dressed as a high priest. He was not functioning as a high priest. Read on. Additional support.
Additional support is given to this view by the shape of the high priest ephod. David's assumption of this meager garb on an occasion of high religious ceremony may perhaps have been a return to a primitive costume which antiquity had rendered sacred, as the pilgrims to, I gotta move this on my screen, to Mecca.
So David being wrapped in an ephod, what the translators use the word ephod for, he just returned to a more primitive costume, which antiquity had rendered sacred. So antiquity called this thing sacred, but it was just a regular piece of clothing in antiquity, family. That's what this is bringing out. David being dressed in an ephod does not make him a priest. Let's just wrap this up for the sake of time, because I know y'all got more questions. What part I really want? Ephod. So we got the ephod that lit up, the stone that lit up. That's when they got a word from Yah. That was called an ephod. But let me just wrap this up. Go to the nail in the coffin, so to speak. Where I want. Let's just end it right here. Various hypotheses.
Various hypotheses have been proposed to connect the different meanings and uses of ephod in the Old Testament. It is possible that the primitive ephod a corner of which was the earliest pocket was used as a receptacle for the lots from which they were drawn or into which they were cast. And that when it was no longer a common piece of raiment, it was perpetuated in this sacred use, not worn, but carried by the priest. The ephod and oracle pouch of the high priest would then preserve this ancient association. The ephod of Gideon, perhaps, or the ephod of Gideon, perhaps also the ephod in the temple at Nob, was, however, the algama of an entirely different character. What relation there may be between the ephod garment and the ephod idol, it is not easy to imagine. In both cases, we must admit the possibility.
So in a nutshell, family, what all this is bringing out in this encyclopedia, the pagans use the word ephod in different contexts. They can't describe the Hebrew words to a T. And David being dressed in what the translation calls the ephod does not make him a high priest. It does not give him a priesthood. You have to give me witnesses, 2 or 3, that says David had a priesthood. None of our ancients ever mentioned a priesthood of David's line. Wearing an ephod, all ancient people wore ephods. You'll see the Egyptians on their hieroglyphs with an ephod on. It became the English word for apron. And with that, I yield. Right, you had something?
He said his question.
My question didn't pertain necessarily to this lesson. That's why I said it could have waited to the end. I was going to ask, would it be a good topic to discuss and talk about tithing and bring witnesses to bring proper context to that? Because I know that's another thing that the Christian system really expounds a lot on, but are just misinformed, and it's scattering our people, and just got us messed up.
Yeah, everyone's satisfied with the virgin birth. Everyone made their comments they wanted to make.
Virgin birth wise, yeah.
Okay, so what you want to go ahead and you run with it. What you want to bring out about tithing?
Well, like I said, I was just bringing it up to ask if it would be something for like a further, for another time, because I'm at work right now, but it was just on my mind for just Give Me Book TV. And I'm pretty sure somebody might somewhere down the line ask a question as far as to give understanding about tithing. Of course, we know that it was for the Levitical priesthood.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of doctrines regarding tithing and how the Christian church still uses it. But in fact, we know that's not what the text says. So I just wanted to ask and see if that would potentially be a topic of discussion on another I guess episode of Just Give Me Book.
Absolutely. Just to touch on it real quickly, if you grew up in church, every Sunday around offering time, the music's going to drop low. Either the music drop low or the music speed up to get you happy. Depends on what Sunday it is. And then the deacon, whoever head deacon in charge that week, he's going to take you to Malachi 3:6. Malachi 3 and 8. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. For ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offering. So they're going to spend 30 minutes telling you how you went and spent all your paycheck Saturday at the mall. You bought all you wanted to buy, and now it's time to give the Most High what's due him. And verse 10 continues, verse 9. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Verse 10. Bring ye all the tithes into my storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, And prove me now herewith, saith Yah of hosts, if I would not open you up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there should not be room enough to receive it. And they use it to guilt you into giving your 10% plus. Like I said, I done sit in services, I ain't getting to preach till we get $500. But what they want to tell you is, the Most High storehouse is not every church house. The Most High only has one storehouse, and that's the Temple of Solomon that's no longer with us. Not only would they not tell you that, but they won't keep this Malachi 3 and 8 in context. Sometimes you got to go back to the beginning of the book to get the context. So when he's talking about them robbing him, if you go back to the beginning of Malachi, Malachi tells you who he's talking to. SELAH is right here. So this is the whole context of Malachi. This is who Malachi is writing to. Malachi 1 and 6. Can you read this for us?
And a son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, where is mine honor?
Why you not honoring me, says the Most High? Read on.
And if I be a master, where is my fear?
If you're calling me your master, why don't you fear me? Read on.
Saith Yahweh Tazabah unto you, O priest.
Unto you who?
Priest.
Oh, who?
O priest.
This whole record of Malachi, the Most High is at odds with the priests, with the Levites. So if you continue this on, the Most High through Malachi, he's bringing charges against the Levites. So now when you get to Malachi 3:8, will a man rob God? He's still talking to the Levites. They started keeping the good meat, my best sheep. Instead of you offering it to the Most High, you're keeping it for yourself, and you're offering the Most High an inferior sheep. So the church won't tell you, because they don't learn Israelite culture, they don't learn Israelite history. All they learn is Christology. Christ, 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 Christ. Now you take everything out of context. So tithe and offering, families, just to touch on it, the tithe and offering that we were to present was for the Levitical priesthood, for them to keep the sacrifices going, for them to keep the upkeep of the temple. We had to take care of the temple because the Levites do not work. They do not have an inheritance. They wasn't given land. The rest of the tribes of Israel was given inheritance of land that they could have vineyards. They were given houses. But the Levites, because they have a covenant with Yah, we take care of them. So if your pastor can't show you beyond a shadow of doubt that he's from the tribe of Levi, we shouldn't be paying him no 10%. Furthermore, how you charging me 10% or guilt me into paying 10%, and tithing is from the law. They picking and choosing what law they want to hold you to. So yeah, we definitely can have that as a topic for Just Give Me Book TV. But for those Christians out there, your pastor should not be guilting you into paying 10%. He should be honest with you. Now, we're not foolish. We know it takes money to run an assembly. Well, we're saying stop guilting people like they're going against God, not turning in 10%. If you keep talking about 10% in tithing, even if you call it tithing offering, you're still referring to the Mosaic covenant. So for you to have on your super chat, on your website, talking about tithing offering, but you're not following the other laws, you're a hypocrite and you're at odds with Yah. So yeah, right, that's a good topic. We'll get deeper into that as we get up and running with the Just Give Me Book TV. Anything else? Anything else?
Yeah, I was gonna say about that thing where we just read with David. just to paint a picture for people, it's like, you ever seen a movie where they go on a treasure hunt and they find some long lost treasure, and it's like, oh, we got this treasure. Here's a antique box that held makeup, but to them it's something special. So in the sense of, they said, oh, this is David's garment, this is the holy ephod that the ancient Israelite, like, they're making it into something completely that it's not. And it's like, oh, everybody wore that. If you don't know, like, you're on the outside digging and looking in, then you're scrambling and digging through the papers and the books and the culture, and you don't really know it because it's not belong to you. Then you start making stuff something that it's not. And that's what it sounded like they did with the ephod. Oh my, this is an ancient garb of the priest of, bruh. Everybody wore that.
Everybody wore that. Just like us with our diadems. Our whole nation wore diadems. Women, everyone wore diadems. So us wearing diadems don't make us priests. It's part of our customs, our culture. So this whole doctrine that David was a priest and David made his sons priests, it doesn't support the text. It doesn't have witnesses. It's false doctrine.
And my last thing is what that was said about. So they brought up Acts chapter 10. Acts 10. And Acts chapter 10. And I believe this is when Peter was going to meet with the quote unquote Gentile.
And for those of you who didn't have a chance to watch what we're talking about, we'll send it out to the group text so you guys, maybe this class will make more sense once you watch this presentation. What verse did he pick it up at?
I honestly don't even know, but I get common, or maybe the part where it talks about common or unclean.
Because he was touching on so many topics. I'm like, nah, he don't. You're
right
going
here, like he says, Peter said, "Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean." And then the voice spake unto him again the second time, what Elohim or Yah has cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. And then he goes on down, and he said 17. Now while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. And I'm trying to just go down because I didn't write no verse down. He kind of was just talking. But I guess 22. And it says here, and they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth Elohim, and of good report among all the nations of the Jews, was warned from the Most High by a holy angel to send for thee into his house and to hear words of thee. So he was saying that, oh man, I need to find it, but I'm gonna just say it and maybe you can help me out. But he was saying that the word they use here for him was like the only time it was used, and it wasn't, because he says some positions say that Cornelius is an Israelite. Like most of the time when it says nations, it can still mean like Northern Kingdom Israelites, etc. But he was saying in this case here, it used a different word that's only used once.
I remember him saying that, and I can't remember how he said it, but what you're saying is dead on. He was saying the word for nation is only used once. But what you got to keep in mind is how we're bringing out that the New Testament, according to a Dr. Seminary himself, what's the name, Bruce Metzer, these Greek fragments have been altered, and all of them are based on corrupted Byzantine fragments. So just because you find that they use one word one time here, we can use textual criticism to prove that Cornelius is an Israelite. How can we use textual criticism? Well, you can't read something in the New Testament that clearly contradicts prophecy, because we read too many times Psalms 147 and 19. I only show my ways unto Israel. My judgments and statutes, the other nations have not known them. So how can Cornelius be a true pagan and he's praying the temple prayer times? Let's go back up and show you that he's praying at temple prayer times.
Well, I would say also too, it says that verse 22, it says he's a just man. Well, what does just mean? Just means righteous, but how is he considered righteous if he's not keeping the law? So according to that text, he's keeping the law, but well, how is he keeping the law if he's a pagan?
Verse 3, about the 9th hour of the day. How does Cornelius know to pray at the 9th hour of the day? That's one question you got to investigate. Then it says, verse 4, this is what the angel tells Cornelius: thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial before Yah. But now we got too many contradictions, because Yah, you told us, Amos 3 and 5, I believe, of all the families of the earth, are only known Israel. So how now you got in the New Testament, this so-called Gentile is offering you prayers, and how does he know to do alms? Paying alms, family? That's in our Torah law. We don't pay alms to the Most High. That's for the poor, the widows, and the sick. How does this Gentile know to do this? And then it says it's come up as a memorial. That means Yah's been watching him. How does this Gentile know to do this? The part of the history they don't understand, family, you have to get the complete works of Josephus. Our nation been scattered, and we ran to Rome so many times when the Greeks had us, because Rome was our protection. So we had Israelites working for Rome in the Roman army. And Josephus records how they eventually sent ambassadors to Rome to ask that us Israelite soldiers be released from the army. And the emperor at the time granted the release for all Israelites who wanted to be released. This is all the history you don't get. And these brothers, get these great breakdowns and have these 4 and 5 hour presentations, and you're missing stuff. But you sound educated, you sound polished. You got these great slides, these transitions, and you're leading people astray. Cornelius was not a Gentile, he was an Israelite.
A lot of times I'm seeing that they spend too much time, they spend more time on, they spend more time on talking about the church father, or like, you have to explain and edify your sources. I definitely agree with that. But if you go too long on that, you taking people away from the point of the text, and then they don't spend equal amount of time quantifying all of the context that's in the text versus focusing on, well, this one word, this one time was totally different. So this word must mean that it couldn't be, but not knowing that this ain't the original words regardless. Then you got to think of the context that to Peter, Kappa, to him, if you was from the northern kingdom and you done scattered yourself for thousands of years, you are just as equal to any other Gentile.
And also the history that gets lost. If I grew up in Rome during the Greek, if my parents ran to Rome during the Greek captivity, then I probably grew up speaking Latin or the Roman. I forgot the Romans' original tongue, because their original tongue wasn't Latin. But if I grew up during the Greek captivity and my parents ran to Rome, I lost my Israelite identity. I could be from Judah or the Northern Kingdom. I done lost my Hebraic roots. So what you see here in Acts 10, you see the Most High foreshadowing how he's going to cleanse, how he's going to sanctify the Northern Kingdom and all Israelites, whether you be from Judah or any tribe who have been tainted through captivity. You're seeing a foreshadowing of the two sticks coming back together being one. Peter's generation didn't know who was Israel or who was not, because people forget the Northern Kingdom was going out the picture since the book of Kings. So you're running into people who don't even know their roots anymore. This is the history that people lose, man. People lose all this history.
And the last part of what I was wanted to at least ask about to help me, because I feel like you break the words down better than anybody I've learned from so far. He said that it's 3 types of strangers in the book. One means to pass through the city to trade. One means to pass through to work, and one means to work and live in the land, like sojourn. So it's a sojourner. Then there's 2 other types of strangers, but one of them I know is the sojourner, the one who wants to come under the covenant and live in the land. So it was like Nakar, Tashab, and something else. And I figured you would know better than me how to, break that stuff down.
I remember I was waiting for him to validate that, and he didn't. But what you can do, you can put those words back into the pictures and get the true context of it. But we got more witnesses that the categories of strangers are pretty much, let me say, you got the stranger who is a non-Israelite. Then you have the stranger who becomes estranged through sin. And then you have the true heathen. The heathens are, of course, the foreign nations, but heathen could be an Israelite who's lost the way. So I would go back, and maybe I'll go back this week if I got time to try to rebuild those words he used. But to me, he didn't produce enough witnesses to support that position. As far as we can see in the text, there's strangers who are foreign born, and then there's strangers who have left the covenant. And then you see the strangers who are attached to us. They always are called strangers. They never become equal. So these are like textual criticism that you have to process these texts with a Hebraic lens.
He said that too, though. That last part, he said that. He said they're given salvation and they can partake and become a part of the covenant, but there still will be a hierarchy.
Yeah, because even though using different words, like when we pulled up that lexicon for the word prince, we have several different words. So just because we have several different words doesn't mean it's a different definition or different type. It's just that this generation used that word, but it's still a stranger. You still have to keep that. The most common word you're going to run into is based on the root word garah, sent away. And according to the Jubilees, all nations, even Abraham's sons, were garah, sent away. Only one who wasn't sent away from Yah is Isaac. So it doesn't matter what word is being used. According to Jubilees and according to all the prophecies, if you're not from the seed of Isaac, and if you don't attach yourself to the seed of Isaac, you are a stranger. So that's how you kick it and keep things in context.
So yeah, other than till we get those other words and see anything out of them, then that was all I had. So the water.
Call you God, Yahweh. That's all I got, fam. Any other questions before we wrap for the day? Any other questions? All right, so again, this was just an open Q&A. We wasn't even supposed to be here today, but we give all honor to the Most High for the fellowship, whether it be virtual or physical. Again, this is just was a preview to just give me book TV. We don't know it all, but as watchmen on the wall, we can't sit back and see whether it be deliberately false teachings or it just be accidental falsehoods. As watchmen on the wall, we're responsible. We have to sound the alarm and give people a different voice and let the people make their own decisions. We're not going to teach people what to believe. Like, we're not going to teach people how to eat. You know, we're going to present the information and you go before your Father yourself and make your own decisions. But it's irresponsible for me as an elder to see that these doctrines being presented as facts, as gospel. And it's like you're not either you're unlearned, so you're doing something out of ignorance, or you know what you're doing and you're purposely out of the evilness of your heart, you're purposely teaching things that's erroneous. So just give me book TV is coming soon, y'all willing. Just trying to bless the people and do our work. So I give the Most High all the glory and honor through the power